tomorrow it might be my turn. It might be my turn for the best day of my life. Tomorrow could be the best day of my life. And I can reinforce that with the knowledge that somebody is having the best day of their life today. So there's no good reason why it shouldn't be me tomorrow. Hello friend, John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into love, consciousness and the mystery. And in this episode we're going into
the reality in the illusion, relaxing into growth, the practical use of positive expectation, and getting the most out of regret.
So I had a comment on YouTube. It was in response to the piece I did about laughing strategically or tactically in the face of life's horrors. And it was based on this quote from Kierkegaard, where he says, "The only intelligent tactical response to life's horrors is to laugh defiantly at it." So I was kind of talking about that and how, it was like the practical application of the cosmic joke. And then this person left a comment / question, and they said, would that explain the clown world we live in and the archetype of the joke / jester? And yes, in a way, but like the role of the jester, it's more complicated, I think, than that, because often the jester, they served to give the king some very direct and honest feedback that the nobles couldn't do under the guise of humor. So it was like, well, he's an idiot, so what he says doesn't matter, which is not really what this is about. And the other thing about this comment, that it just kind of reminded me of this possibility of, and it's a real thing in the spiritual life, in consciousness, is to feel like the world, when you begin to see that it's all an illusion, it's easy to kind of feel like, well, why do I need to take everything seriously? It's all a bit of a joke. It's all a bit of a clown world, as this person says. And that's a trap, because it's like going to a movie. It would be like going to a movie and saying, kept continually standing up in the movie and going, this is not real. This is all just, shadows on a wall. Would not make you very popular with the other people in the cinema, but besides that, you wouldn't enjoy it. You wouldn't enjoy the movie. Like if you were watching some, I don't know, let's say Indiana Jones or something that's like, oh, what's going to happen? It's so exciting, whatever. If you continually kept saying to yourself, this isn't real, this is just an illusion, you wouldn't enjoy that movie. And it's kind of the same in life. It's like, it's very important in the spiritual life to know that this is an illusion. It's not real. This is something we're looking into. That there's a much bigger world. I was going to say inside, but it's not inside, it's outside. This is inside. Anyway, there's a much bigger world that you're part of. And this is the one you're looking into. We're looking into this little illusion. It's very important to know that, and to really know it in a deep, deep way. Because the deeper you know it, then you kind of go, well, I'm not here by accident. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm pretty sure I'm not here by accident. It's all significant. So I'm going to participate 100%. I'm going to participate as if it was real, knowing full well that it's not. Because then cynicism doesn't creep in. Because that's what it is. It's a kind of a form of spiritual cynicism, where you're like, oh, it's all bullshit, man. It's all an illusion. It's not real. Nothing matters. It's all. You could call that spiritual bypass. You can call it whatever you like, but I don't care what you call it. What it does is it stops you enjoying it. It stops you participating, and it stops you appreciating the incredibly valuable things that happen here. Love happens here. I mean, it happens in outside existence as well, but we communicate here, and the communication is of love. We communicate here in a way that is not possible in other places. So to communicate love through all this density is a beautiful thing. It's like seeing a little flower coming up between the cracks in the concrete. In some ways, that makes my heart sing, maybe yours too, in a way that a whole field of buttercups doesn't, because it's a little reminder of the preciousness of love. And the way we do that here is through communication. So there are only two things that are real here. Everything is, it's all pixels, it's all an illusion, whatever. But the two things that are real are communication and love. It's in the same way as you could be on a Zoom call with 5 other people, okay? They're not in the room with you. All you're looking at is your little screen, whether it's on your laptop, your TV, it doesn't matter. But it's, you're just seeing images, okay? It's just pixels. But what you communicate to each other, that's very real and very significant. And you could be communicating love, you could be communicating liberating ideas, you could be communicating all sorts of things. So the communication that happens on the Zoom call is real, but the reality is you're just sitting in a room looking at your computer, okay? So it's kind of the same here. It's an illusion, for sure. It's not real, even though it feels real with windiness and all sorts of things. What is real is communication and love, and you'll miss that if you settle into it's all a joke. This is a joke world. So I would encourage you to get in there, right into it, 100%, give it everything. So as you know, I post a question regularly on the Instagram Further Emergence Instagram feed. And the question I ask is, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your spiritual life at the moment? And this person says, acceptance. I feel like I have these gifts and healing abilities, and I don't know if I deserve them, if I deserve to have them, or more to the point, I'm worried I can't fulfill them. So I feel like I'm struggling with acceptance of myself. That's the thing about when you get these uprisings inside, or intuitions about things, or senses of things. We're so conditioned to feel like we have to do something, We have to make it happen. We have to deliver on the promise of our potential, which I don't think it's the way it is, because these things wouldn't arise if they weren't already inside you. And it's almost like you get the first little inclination of it. And it's great that you've recognized it and that you've acknowledged it. But you don't have to do anything about it. Meaning you don't have to make it happen, If you think of like an acorn in the ground, and it's like if it had the sense of that one day it would be a huge, huge oak tree. And it'd be like the acorn going, oh my God, what have I got to do? I have to do something to make that happen. That's the way we are. We sort of feel under pressure. We get these glimpses of our potential, or our bigness, or our vastness. And we feel like, oh my God, I have to make this happen. And I don't think we do. I think we're like acorns. I think it's a beautiful gift to get a glimpse into what you are. But that doesn't mean you have to go into overdrive or responsibility, because in my experience of myself, there's lots of different parts of me, and some parts are less conscious than others. And the front part is the least conscious, the bit that's talking to you right now. It's the least conscious part of me. It's the least resourced to deal with existence, yet it's the one that has to deal with existence. Because the deeper parts, they know a lot more, they're much more conscious, but they don't have to, talk to the postman or interface with anybody. And it's that frontal part that jumps into, oh my God, I have to do something now. I've got these great gifts. What do I do? Oh, you don't have to do anything. It's a gift that you can have a sense of that. But if you just are easy with it and let the deeper parts of you organize things, which they will, so that you can let these things about yourself that you've discovered, so that they'll flourish and that they'll blossom. That they'll blossom in ease, not in strain. You'll feel inclined to do things. And when you feel that inclination, do them. But do them in ease, and do them knowing that if you don't do them, you'll get another chance. It'll come around again. There's no pressure in this kind of stuff. What is coming up from inside you, which is very different from, I want to be the fastest whatever, or I want to be the richest whatever, or I want to, that sort of stuff. Yeah, you have to hustle for that. You have to grind for that stuff, because it's in existence. It's coming from in existence, and you're going, yeah, I want to do that. I want to own that car, or I want to live in that house, or whatever. That stuff you have to grind for because it's of the world. But if it's coming up from inside you, you don't have to grind for that. In fact, grinding on that stuff just gets in the way. You just kind of go, oh, look at that beautiful thing. Look at that beautiful expansiveness I have on the inside. I wonder what's going to happen next. And then you just, the tricky bit, or the bit where the frontal part gets in the way a little bit, is if you have a knowing to do something, like say some sort of healing modality speaks to you, and then out of nowhere a training brochure appears. That's what happened for me with craniosacral therapy. I went from never hearing about craniosacral therapy to I didn't hear about anything else for 6 months. It was the weirdest thing. I just kept hearing about it, and I was living in a remote place, not too unlike this. So it's not like I was, around lots of people who were telling me about craniosacral therapy, but it just kept coming up. It was quite remarkable. It was almost to the point where I felt like I wouldn't have been surprised if a big truck had passed by my house with the big billboard on the side that said, "You should do craniosacral therapy." And I went to visit my friend, who was the original person I heard about craniosacral therapy from. And normally his desk was a mess. It was just full of stuff. But on this day I walked in, it was completely empty except for one brochure sitting in the middle of the desk. And it was for craniosacral training from the College of Craniosacral Therapy in London. And I walked in and I was like, I could read it upside down on his desk. I said, I think that's for me. And he said, okay, and he gave it to me. And I, got in touch and signed up and did it. And, when we were on the first day of the course, craniosacral therapy course, we were having a sort of a get to know you, go around the room kind of thing. And I had never done anything like this before. And I wasn't even interested in it. I wasn't interested in being a healer. In fact, I was very interested in not being a healer. I didn't like I was like cool. I was like a rock star. I was like a filmmaker, artist. That was who I was, not a healer. So yeah, we're doing the going around the room thing. And, the person behind me is like, well, I'm a physiotherapist and I have been for this number of years. The next person is, I'm a massage therapist. I've been doing it for this number of years. This next person is, I'm a nurse, theatre nurse. I'm interested in craniosacral. Next person is something else. They get to me and I'm like, I've just finished touring an exhibition of my photography. The guy who was the teacher told me years later, he said, we didn't think you'd make it. In fact, we didn't think you'd make it past the first day. But that's what I'm talking about, following when it comes, you've got to follow it then, But you don't have to make it come up. You don't have to force yourself to feel like, I've got to do something about it. But you do have to act when it comes. And it can be pretty scary and shaky. So, in the class at that time, I wasn't thinking, I don't think I'm going to make it. I kind of knew why I was there, so it was okay. But that's an example. Or, if I came across the brochure and for the course and I looked at how much it was, I kind of, I don't know if I should do that, or I don't know if I get the time off, or whatever it is. Those are the times to act. But other than that, They're grand. You don't have to do anything. Just let it all happen. It'll all come. It'll all be beautiful.
Now, let's have a look at one of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. It's kind of cool to think someone somewhere is having the best day of their life today. Someone is hearing "I love you" for the very first time today. Someone is going to get the job of their dreams today. Someone received some kind of good news today. Tomorrow it could be your best day. So keep going.
This is lovely, isn't it? And very, subtly swings it around. Because, when you hear somebody else that's having a great day and you're not, it's easy to kind of go, what about me? Why can't I have a great day? Or you might go, I hate them. I hate how happy they are. Or I'm so jealous. Or all that sort of heavy, things that don't make you feel great. And what's lovely about this idea of, you don't even have to see somebody having a great day, but just the idea of someone is having the best day of their life today. Someone is being told that they are loved. Someone, is hearing, I love you. Someone is getting a big, surprise, a beautiful windfall, a miraculous turnaround. All this is happening for somebody. You can be sure of it. This is all happening for somebody. And rather than kind of going, well, that's great for them, to kind of go, well, that's great, because tomorrow it might be my turn. It might be my turn for the best day of my life. Tomorrow could be the best day of my life. And I can reinforce that with the knowledge that somebody is having the best day of their life today. So there's no good reason why it shouldn't be me tomorrow. There's no good reason why all good things don't come to me. And that's a pretty revolutionary thought, particularly if you've been conditioned to think that nothing good comes to you or only bad things come to you. Because in one way or another, we're all kind of conditioned with a version of that. And why it's powerful is because it changes your setup on the inside. It makes you it changes your kind of vibration, or just your outlook, your resonance, because we're all pretty energetic creatures. The field is neutral. It doesn't really care who wins the lottery in one way. It doesn't really care who's wealthy and who's not. It just gives people what they habitually keep thinking about. So anything that you can come across that helps you change the way you think and change the way you feel, because it's nice to, when you can kind of go, yeah, somebody is having the best day of their life today, which means that tomorrow that could be me. That brings like a sort of an almost expectation into it, which is beautiful, because expectation is very powerful for bringing good things to you, but it changes your experience in the moment. Instead of having like a heavy kind of nothing good ever happens to me kind of feeling, just thinking someone else is having the best day of their life today. Someone is being told I love you for the first time today. Someone is having a miracle happen to them, and it could be my turn tomorrow. That immediately affects how you feel right now. It immediately frees up the future to be whatever it can be, and your expectation is that it might be good for you. And we're conditioned to kind of think that that doesn't have any effect, but it does. But you don't have to take my word for that. You can just go on well, it's worth thinking like this because it makes me feel better right now. But if you keep feeling better like that right now, it works way more often than it should. It should only work 50-50. It shouldn't really make any difference at all. But it's surprising when you do have this kind of positive expectation and kind of this feeling of like, yeah, could be my turn tomorrow, then the chances of it being your turn tomorrow increase from 50-50 a lot. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Very useful, very handy little trick. Thinking about other people, because you know for sure someone is having the best day of their life. There's too many of us for it not to be. And then to just add that little, and it could be my turn tomorrow. Beautiful. I had another response to the question I post on Instagram, what's the biggest challenge you're facing in your spiritual life at the moment? And this person says, dealing with life choices in general, past and present, which, as I read it, adds up to regret, which is common and multifaceted. And the main thing I think about regret is it gets dismissed way too quickly. This idea of have no regrets. And why I'm suspicious of that is it's kind of just a matter of how you frame it, really, isn't it? Because you could kind of go, I should not have taken that job. That was a terrible idea. I really regret it because I thought I wanted the money, but actually I wanted to enjoy my work. I wanted a nice work environment, that kind of thing. Now you could frame that as I regret taking that job, or you could look at it from another way and go, well, I learned that money is not as important to me as I thought, and that nice working environment, enjoyment in what I do, it actually matters a lot more to me than I thought. So isn't that just learning? Isn't that just learning from your experience? Just under another name. But it's also regret. So isn't it worth it? Isn't it like if you just get rid of all regret, then aren't you kind of negating everything you've learned, your hard-won experience? I think it is. So that's why I'm kind of cautious about just going, oh, all regret is bad, even though regret can be very difficult and can kind of eat you alive if you're not careful. Because in some cultures, I know the Toltec culture, they don't phrase it as regret. They talk about recapitulation. And what that is consciously going back over your life, going back over every single decision that you made, and extracting everything out of it. Every single thing, where you were, what you did. They go into it in a lot of detail. And I found it kind of useful. What I found even more useful is to recapitulate, meaning go back to the point. So go back to the point where you make a decision where you feel like I regret that decision. So you go back to that point and then you make another decision and you follow that forward along what is really an imagined kind of timeline. Because what I found is, in a subtle way, it negates regret. Because what you'll find is, or what I have found anyway, is you arrive back at the very similar place. Because often the regret comes from the experience that you got from making the wrong decision in the first place. So you might say, I shouldn't have gone for that job. I shouldn't have bought that car. I shouldn't have married that person. I shouldn't have gone to that event. Whatever. If you follow it what would have happened if you didn't. Like say with the job, and you realize the thing about money. If you hadn't taken the job, you would have gone a different course, and eventually you would have arrived back at the same point of realizing that money isn't as important to you as you thought, for example. It doesn't always work, but it works a lot more than I expected. So recapitulation, there's a value in that, and then recapitulation and following a different timeline, value in that. All of which would be gone if you just went, well, no regrets. The thing about regrets, though, the negative thing about regrets, or the destructive thing about regrets, is when they start eating you alive. And that can be very difficult. And it's a bit like grief. Like, the difficult thing about grief is my mind and my little heart is trying to see, embrace, smell, feel the person who's gone in existence, which is just not going to happen. So it's like I want to connect, so it's like I've got this extending connector trying to find the person. And what I find is the lack of the person in existence. And every time I do that, it hurts like hell. You know, so it's like, zzz, 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 ow, ow, every time. Regret is kind of similar. My mind is trying to make something different that doesn't even exist. Meaning, it's trying to make a different decision in the past. And the past isn't here anymore. It's gone. So the opportunity to change, to make the different decision, to not go for the job, to not marry the person, to not buy the car, to not go to the event, to not whatever, it doesn't exist. But my mind doesn't get it. It doesn't know that. It actually doesn't know that the past doesn't exist. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's so obvious, because if it did know that, it wouldn't waste the slightest bit of energy trying to change the past. But that's what regret is my mind trying to change the past. And it's so demonstrable that the past doesn't exist to my mind. It's so obvious that the past doesn't exist. And, oh, this is a very nice little stream. Let me show you. It's lovely, isn't it? So what to do? What to do with my poor mind that's trying to fix the past? Well, it's a bit like childhood trauma, in that one of the most helpful things in dealing with childhood trauma, particularly the coping mechanisms that are still in operation. I push people away when they get too close. I pull people too close. I smother them. I am unreasonably anxious about the seemingly innocuous things. You know, as an adult, that can be quite debilitating. And one of the most helpful things for my mind, my lovely little mind, to get is that I survived. I know that sounds really simple, doesn't it? But the reason a lot of trauma response continues is because my mind didn't get the memo that I survived. So it's still trying to survive, right? So it's still acting in survival mode. You know, I can't let this person close to me because they will destroy me, which was true in childhood. But I had to push people away, but I survived. So I don't need to do that anymore. Or I'm smothering people, so I'll survive. But it's like, but you don't need to, because you survived. You won, okay? So Just notice I'm changing hands here, right? A couple of people, completely digressing, a couple of people have got in touch to say, oh, I didn't realize you had something wrong with your hand because my hand, whichever hand is holding this, a magic disappearing selfie stick, people were thinking that it was withered or something, you know. My hands are fine. I can't show you both hands at the same time, but my hands are fine. So, in the same way that one of the most helpful things you can do when you feel old childhood stuff coming up, I'm not saying this is a catch-all, and this takes care of childhood trauma, not by any stretch, but it is very helpful to gently bring your mind back to, I survived. You did great. You did fantastic. I survived. I'm still here. Don't necessarily need it anymore, but I survived. It's the same with regret. You can keep bringing your mind back to, it doesn't exist. Where is the job opportunity now? Where is the marriage proposal? Where is that person? You know, the thing I didn't say to my parent before they died, where's the opportunity to say that to them now? Right now. I mean, you may as well use all this consciousness stuff to help you, because you can kind of go, yeah, none of it exists. The only thing that exists is now, the moment. You can kind of get that intellectually, but this is a practical application of it. You can bring your mind back to it trying to behave differently in the past and gently demonstrate to it, the past is not here. It doesn't exist. So because it doesn't exist, I can't change it. And you'd be surprised, like once your mind kind of gets it, it takes a while. It took me a while anyway. Once your mind gets it, that there is nothing that can be done right now, it begins to stop. It stops chewing over that thing that it's classified as a regret. You stop getting the little darts, because it's, as I say, it's like grief. Your mind goes back to that moment. If only I hadn't done that, you know. And the thing is, as you get older, it's great, but the space for the accumulation of regret, there's a lot more. There's a lot more space for regret. So figuring out how to deal with regret early is good, because just changing hands again, see, this one works. It means that you can have less accumulation of regret as you get older, because you've probably met people who are older and they are burdened. They are walking along with a big sack of regrets on their back. And what that does is it makes them timid. It makes them tentative, which is crazy, because if you've got lots of regrets, it means, framed and looked at in another way, you've got a lot of experience, you know. You've made lots of mistakes. You've gone up blind alleys. You've trusted the wrong people. You've done all sorts of things. Okay. If you let that erode yourself, then you're wasting a huge resource. Okay. Because if you can kind of do this thing of like, I can't change it because it doesn't exist. It's impossible to change it. The only place the past exists is inside us. Okay? The past can be alive inside you, but then it's not alive inside you in the past, it's alive inside you in the present, which means you can change that, but you're changing inside you in the present. And one of the ways of doing that is by going, I can't change the past. When you do that, then you can kind of go, it frees you up. The burden of regret is lifted off you. And then you can get on with the fun of being older. Then you can go on bigger adventures, take bigger leaps, because you will take them with all that experience. This great resource hard-won resource. So your chances of screwing up or making another mistake are substantially lower the older you get because of all the experience you have. There's no guarantee, of course. You could make a catastrophic mistake. But that's the fun of life, isn't it? And that's the adventure of life. So like as you get older, you've got a great opportunity to take bigger and bigger, go on bigger and bigger adventures with a much more higher likelihood of success because of all your experience. You're not naive. You're not naive anymore. You don't have those early mistakes to make. But if you're burdened by regret and you're almost afraid of your own shadow, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss all the fun. So there's a lot to regret. There's a lot to regret about this segment. No, there is a lot to the whole thing of regret. And it's a shame to just dismiss it with sugar candy, no regrets, everything should be lovely, I love myself. You can love yourself and still hold the space of regret and kind of look at it, pull it apart. You could look at it like the Toltec approach of recapitulation, go down different timelines, see the value in what's happened, that you've gained experience. You won't make that mistake again. People say that like it's a bad thing. Isn't that like, you've learned something, so that's great. So make the most of that and go, great, look at all this great experience, dare I say wisdom I have accumulated. Now, what big adventure can I go on with all this new wisdom? So yes, regret. Have fun with it. Bring it with you. All right, well that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.